Hello everyone, TLSG here. Today we're going to be showcasing Mobius M. Mobius, the newest card release in Marvel Snap, and I'm excited to be the one that can showcase this and bring it to you guys. So Mobius is going to come in at a 2-cost, 3-power card with a very strong ongoing ability of your costs can't be increased, and your opponent's costs can't be reduced. So this is a win-win. In several decks, your turn 5 play is very critical, very important, and if something like Dream Dimension comes up, then it's going to be impossible to play that 5-cost on curve. And if you're seeing things like Iceman, Mobius is going to counter that and make sure that your cards are going to stay their original cost. And then on the flip side of it, if the opponent is using some kind of cost reduction, so if they're using the newly released Ravonna, if they're using a She-Hulk build, if they're leveraging a destroy and then a death combo, they're not going to be able to get that reduced cost death, and so it's going to become unplayable. And then a little bit more impactful for the current meta, Loki. Loki has been very, very strong since his release, and using him alongside a Quinjet can offer some really deep discounts for the opponent so that they can just outvalue you and outflood you. Mobius hopefully will change that a little bit, and so I have 3 decks that I want to showcase today. The first one being a deck that I think is really, really strong right now. It's performing very well, and it only gets better with Mobius, and that's going to be a Craven movement wave style build. So the early game value that this deck can bring with the Nebula, with the Craven, is phenomenal. And then we all know that the Silk play can just get out of hand so incredibly quickly, and being able to maneuver some of your power on the last turn so that you can more efficiently drop your last turn play once you've waved on turn 5 is just so impactful and can create some unwinnable positions for your opponent. And then Mobius is going to take this up another notch, because you can use Mobius anytime between turns 2 and turns 5. And then if you use your wave, your 6-cost cards will go down to 4, but your cards that cost 1 or 2 are not going to increase. That means you're going to be able to potentially do multiple things on that final turn when your opponent can likely only do 1. And to really lean in and leverage this build is going to have Goose as well, which is not something that the common Silk Craven movement deck uses. But the rationality behind it is if you use wave and the opponent doesn't have a Mobius down, then all of their cards are going to be unplayable into the Goose lane, and you can still potentially get power there through either moving your Jeff, through your Silk, through playing a card directly in that lane if you have a 2 or lower cost card, or through your Dr. Doom, and it's going to make it easier to land your Alioth. If you don't have Alioth, that's perfectly fine. You can substitute the Alioth in this deck for an Arrow to give you another very strong combo play. Being able to use Arrow on the last turn to guarantee where the opponent's card is going to go is such a high value play, and then if you're able to play something else in addition to that, then it's going to be even more advantage in your favor. Or a Destroyer that we have to look out for. Professor X here may be kind of scary, and we do draw into Wave, which is very nice to see. Let's go ahead and do Wave into Mobius. On the last turn, we'll still be able to play into the Atelan location. We'll still be able to move our Jeff out and then play whatever big card. Unfortunately, it's going to be Angela that we can play alongside whatever we draw on the last turn, but maybe we draw something like Dr. Doom or Alioth. Both of those are still in our deck, so those 2 cards that really heavily benefit from the wave interaction are still in our deck. We have a 50-50 shot of top decking one of those 2. We also have a couple of chances of drawing cards that are just not going to be valuable. But we'll see. They do a double drop into the Atelan location, so that is going to be capped out. We can potentially push our Silk over into that lane one additional time. They go Hazmat and then Armor. Very interesting play. Now we do get Alioth, and so this comes down to a gut read. Where is the opponent going to fight for? Because they can play 1 card. I'm thinking they play a Destroyer, but that comes down to, are they going to Destroyer in Space Throne, or do they use Destroyer here? If I'm them, I Destroyer into the Space Throne. Just for dominance, we're going to throw Angela down. If I'm them, I Destroyer into the Space Throne. And if they do, this is 15. Bringing the Jeff over is going to bring it up to 13. This would bring it up to a tie. And so then we would lose the tiebreaker. But that's just a gut read. They do play in mid. Wow. And so we are able to out-position them on the last turn. Deathlock is not a strong finisher, but we'll absolutely take it. We will take the win where we can. And then next up we have a Mobius Silver Surfer build. This one leverages the Goose play, but it also uses some lane lockdown mechanics in like a Storm into a Juggernaut, a Storm into a Spider-Man to pull whatever they play out of that lane. You have the Sarah cost reduction, so if you have Mobius down, fantastic. If not, you can always, in this build, use Wave on 3 as long as you're not facing a Goliath to play Sarah out early on 4, allowing you to cheat out more power on turns 5 and turn 6 than what your opponent can. And then if you have a Mobius down as well, or towards the end of the game, it doesn't matter if they use a wave of their own, because your cards are not going to be able to have their costs increased. And so this one has been one of my personal favorites. You can get a lot of benefit from locking down a location with your Storm. The Rogue, it really depends on if you're seeing a lot of ongoing cards. I do also like leveraging a Shadow King, but now that he's 2 cost, you don't quite get as much Silver Surfer value from him, and so he did get cut in this version, but he runs perfectly fine if you want to cut maybe the Goose or something similar. But I think this is okay. We're going to go Spider-Man. If they play multiple cards here, it becomes a little bit dicey. If we had Juggernaut in hand, that's also a great way to make sure we have that Storm lane locked in, protected. They don't play for the flooded location, interestingly enough. So Elysium, they pull in the Mr. Sinister. We're going to be able to have the Goose, so there's a chance that we can make it where they won't be able to play for this location on the last turn, while we can. We'll see. There is the Mobius. That is a beautiful sight to behold. Let's go ahead and play our Sarah. That's going to give a great reduction across the board. We then have Mobius plus Wave plus just about everything else we want on the last turn. Even though we don't have any like big power finishers, I think we have some unique benefit. Now, the Green Goblin is a little bit unfortunate because we want all of the space that we can get because we need a lot of play space. It does not look like we're going to be able to get that, so we might as well do something like this. We could completely cap out this left lane. And then I'm looking at a Rogue on the last turn to steal this Mr. Sinister, this Mr. Fantastic way. Doing the Killmonger this turn would make sure that their Sunspot gets destroyed. They won't be able to play for the Elysium lane next turn, and so unless they lock in, whatever they lock in this turn, in that lane is going to be capped out. And so the Odin does not hit anything. Odin over here would have been nice because they would have capped this one out, but we will take the Odin in the left lane. We're not going to be able to compete with them in the left location unless we get maybe Silver Surfer, but I think it is going to be more beneficial for us to use Rogue because the opponent, you have to remember, even though our cards are really cheap, they're 0, 1, 1, the opponent's cards are all 4. They are all 4. They haven't had the luxury of the Elysium discount for the entirety of the game, and so they can't play behind this Goose. And so I think we get some pretty cool benefit from the Mobius Wave interaction. Even though this was not a fantastic, like, high power play, we have a lot of tech options. We have a lot of ability to steal games where the opponent may not be able to do so. Now, if they have a Dr. Doom, then they can steal the game away, but the Chavez is not quite going to do it. We win mid, we win right, just barely, mind you, but we do take home both. And then if you're looking to use something that doesn't leverage Wave, we have the Mobius Sarah combo. And so previously, the Sarah style deck really got outweighed if the opponent had a wave that they dropped on turn 5. But with Mobius in play, if they drop a wave, it's not going to prohibit us to being able to burst a lot of power on that last turn. Or if they have a Mobius of their own, then our cards are still going to be playable. They're not going to have their costs increased, which with this style of deck is very important to have. We're going to be able to always do Kitty Pryde plus something else on the last turn. We can leverage those cheaper cards to buff up our Hitmonkey further, and we have the counterplay in Shang-Chi if we need. Kind of play it slow, we can wait it out. Because we do have the Bast, I would like to hold that until we get more cards that might be impacted. So Mysterio is a great use for it. The Hitmonkey right now, we can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We could do all of these on the last turn and just bombard the opponent. There is a chance that Mirror Dimension also copies the Elysium, which would be so satisfying to see. Well, let's see. The Deathlock comes down. We have the Colossus and Daredevil. I think we're really focused on doing our own thing. Angela comes down, so I think we are going to go ahead and... That's 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to wait one more turn. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to wait one additional turn. We are going to be able to throw down Angela, Mysterio, Luke Cage, Shadow King, Hitmonkey, all on the last turn for just so much reach that it's going to be absurd. They have the Nova as long as they don't... I guess it doesn't really matter, right? So I am going to go ahead and do Bishop this turn. That way we get as much value out of our last turn play as possible. Right now, we're looking at a cost of 6 on the last turn. I don't think there's any need for us to rush anything else down. If we play Bishop here, he's going to pull over into this lane, which I think is fine. but I do want to make sure that we can use Angela as the first card in one of the lanes. And so we're going to save, and so we're going to make sure that Bishop pulls over, and then we'll go from there. And so we're going to lock in with a very minimal turn 5 play. I don't think they're going to be able to stop us from doing what we want to do. They have the Green Goblin, so it takes up a little bit of space, but that's perfectly fine. It pulls over into the far right lane, going all the way across the world. Actually, okay. And so we do have the 3 power. We know that Chavez is going to come in on that last turn, so we can kind of plan around our last turn a little bit better. I know there's some Chavez believers, some that are not non-believers, but I enjoy a good Chavez play. Let's go Angela, Luke Cage. We'll do Mysterio. That's going to go here and here. We have Shadow King and then Hit Monkey. Do we need that much in this lane? This is 3-6. Become to 9. I don't know if we need the Hit Monkey over here, but we do get a large push in this lane. We get a very large push in this right lane as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and split it in between all 3, making it difficult for the opponent to do really whatever they want to do. We're going to be able to restrict them. We get the full benefit of the Mobius with the Elysium, which is just a beautiful thing when it happens. The Destroyer is interesting, but it's not going to be enough. I think we're going to vastly outpower them. I don't think we'll win this right lane, but we will be able to get a pretty big Bishop in the process, and so it won't be terrible. And so our Mysterio is coming down, just absolutely pumping the Bishop up. We skipped for almost the entirety of the game, and then we're able to pump out just an absurd amount of power. So then our Hit Monkey does come down. Oh, and he does pull into the middle location. So I did mistime that. They could have won, but we would have needed to play Hit Monkey or cap this lane out with like a Shadow King first. And so we will take the win. A lot of flexibility with this build. Okay, so we start out with Mobius in our hand. Being able to get it down early could be pretty nice. Now, they do kill our Sarah, but with Yondu, we have to assume that they're running a death deck. And so with it being a death deck, we can do Mobius, and then they're not going to be able to get those discounted cards. So the discounted death is going to be a big one that they're going to be missing. Now, I do want to wait a turn. We're going to do Angela first, and then next turn is probably going to look like something like a Mobius, maybe a Mobius and a Kitty Pryde. They're running the classic Angel variant. And so with the Raft, we have Shadow King, so we could always offset their cards. So if they use a Venom in a lane, if they use a Carnage, we can offset that back to the original power, which is such a huge benefit. We're just going to go ahead and do Mobius now to make sure they don't get any kind of discount. And then next turn, we could completely cap out the left lane if we were confident that we'd be able to win it. But I don't know that we are, because it would look like this. They haven't been able to destroy many cards. It does make our Hit Monkey a little bit less impactful, but we'll get the free resource from the Raft, which I think is going to outweigh the negatives of using the Mysterio early. And so they do one card in the right lane. We get a free Thanos, which even if they for some reason have a wave, like they're running the old Death Wave deck, our Thanos is still going to be free, which is going to be nice. We have the Luke Cage to help outpower us, to help us outpower them in the sewer system. And then coming into this one, we have Bishop, and I think we do maybe Bishop into Shadow King. And then next turn is just looking like a Chavez plus a Thanos, or a Shang-Chi plus a Thanos if they play something that comes over the top of what we have. Now, them not knowing for sure if this is the real Mysterio can make it kind of tough for them to position some of that power. The Moon Girl comes down. They're not going to be able to do a double death because they didn't destroy enough cards, and because of Mobius. Mobius is going to keep that card at an 8 power. They're not even going to be able to play it, which is going to be a big deficit for them. Let's go ahead and let's go ahead and play the Thanos here. We're going to split our power just in case they do decide to focus over here and they outpower us there. We're going to be able to throw down a lot of power on this last turn that the opponent is just not going to be able to get into. And so even though we didn't get any huge benefit from the Mobius, we didn't get it. It did prohibit them from using Wave because they knew it would not hinder us when it would potentially hinder them. With the Mobius, it wouldn't help their death. It would still be unusable. And so the Death Wave can still be pretty decent, especially with the addition of Mobius into it now. But with us having Mobius on the board, it just made it really tough for them to navigate, and they weren't able to get the full benefit like they would want.